welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to do a video all about my process of planning our destination wedding. I've gotten actually a handful of questions about this specific thing. This might be a lengthy video, but if you're planning a destination wedding, I have a lot of tips or things that I learned through the whole process that hopefully will make it easier for you. If you didn't already see our actual wedding video, which went live a few days ago, and then our honeymoon or buddy moon video, so you can kind of get a sense of the type of wedding that we planned and the type of people we are and what type of wedding essentially we had. I have kind of a long thing of pretty much everything I'm going to go over in this video, so hang tight. It's going to be probably a lengthy one. So the first step for a lot of people in planning a destination wedding is picking the destination. For Joel and I, we knew we wanted something warm, probably a bit tropical, but I really didn't want Mexico. Not that there's anything wrong with Mexico, it's just so many of our friends and family have been to Mexico so many times. So I really wanted something different. Also, in picking the location, we really wanted some place that had a direct flight from Minneapolis to wherever we were going. Joel's 92-year-old grandpa at the time, I think he's 93 now, was flying down for our wedding, and we wanted to make sure that people would just be easy to travel, and that they didn't have to, do a bunch of connecting flights and travel for hours and hours and hours. We just really wanted some place that had a direct flight. And then we really wanted a place that we could go where after we spent time with people at our actual wedding, we could go off and kind of have a separate honeymoon that would be separate from where we actually got married. We landed on Costa Rica, which was amazing. It kind of checked all of our boxes. We had a direct flight there. Not a ton of our friends and family had been there before. It offered a lot of adventure outdoor stuff and a lot of variety of things, which was important to us too. And it was a direct flight. That was kind of a big win for us. And you could still have a beach vibe wedding, and then we could go inland and explore Costa Rica itself. So we live here in Minneapolis, and so I looked at the routes of Sun Country and Delta to see where there were direct flights for us outside of Mexico, kind of in that Caribbean, Central America. And we saw Costa Rica, Liberia was on the list, and we just really were like, this is it, let's do Costa Rica. This sounds awesome. We've both always wanted to go here. So that's kind of how we ended up on Costa Rica. It was something that a place that we had wanted to go, but had never been before. And it had a direct flight, and it had a lot of things to offer in the actual country itself. On to picking the date of our wedding. So we ended up using Delta for most of our flights for our destination wedding. I worked with a travel agent, I'll get into that in a later tip, but she showed me or told me which days were the main days that Delta flew in and out of Costa Rica. So it was Friday, Saturday, and Tuesday. So what I did is I kind of worked backwards from the actual main flying days, because those ended up being the more cost-effective days for our friends and family to travel. I figured people could fly in on Friday or Saturday. Then for those who wanted to kind of make this a short trip, could fly home Tuesday. And for those that wanted to make a full week vacation out of it, they could then fly back the following Friday or Saturday. So how I planned the actual day we got married was I just kind of went backwards. So I knew people would be flying out on Tuesday, so I figured the best day for our wedding would be Monday. The day before that would be our rehearsal dinner, and then Saturday was kind of we didn't really have anything planned except for we did my bachelorette party that night. So it wasn't as crucial of a thing for people to come fly into Costa Rica, because we were coming from Minneapolis in February, which is unpredictable weather. It could be snowy or it could be 65 like it's been lately. So that's kind of how we landed on the day. I knew we were going to get married on a Monday, and it just so happened we picked a week that worked best for us and schedules and friends and family as much as we could, and so it just kind of landed on leap year. We weren't really planning or needing to get married on leap year, but it just kind of, all shook out that way, and it ended up working really, really well, because some people, they flew in Friday, went home Tuesday, and didn't have to take off much work to experience our wedding. And then for those who wanted a full vacation. They flew in like Friday or Saturday and then flew home Friday or Saturday the next week, and were able to kind of explore and see a bit of Costa Rica after our actual wedding. So now that I had like the location picked, the date kind of picked, for the actual wedding date and time that we were going to be there, I had to find an actual hotel and like location. So we were flying into Liberia, Costa Rica. And so I really didn't want people to have to then get in a car and travel for like 3 hours in a car, especially like I said, Joel's grandpa, who's in his 90s, was coming. And we just were trying to make travel as like painless as possible. So I booked a hotel that was like, I don't know why I even booked this hotel, not looking back, but it was like an all-inclusive. It was like 20 minutes from the airport, and it was like everything I didn't want. But I felt like I was already inconveniencing people for having them fly so long and then to hop in a car and then travel to the hotel. So I had that booked for like 3 days or something like that. And then I canceled that hotel wedding date and it kind of started from scratch. And the reason why I skipped out on that, it was the Riu Palace in just like kind of 15-20 minutes out of Liberia. There was like no Costa Rican experience to me in my mind. It just felt like you're just at an all-inclusive, like in a tropical place, which I was like, well then why don't we just go to Mexico if I pick that? So then I found the town Tamarindo, and I was really into this town. I thought it was really cool. Like I said, we'd never been there before. So I just did a lot of research into the town, and it was like a cool surf town, a bit touristy, but not like there were megaplex hotels there. And so then once I found the location, which was that car ride from the airport to Tamarindo was about 45 minutes an hour, depending on traffic. So I was like, okay, this is good. Like, this makes sense to me. And then I had to look for a hotel for all of us to fit in, because for a destination wedding, we actually had like a solid guest list. I think we invited like 60 people or something like that, and around like maybe it was 60 or 70 people. And around like 50 people actually came to our wedding, 50, 55. So it was like an amazing turnout. But we had to like put everybody in the same hotel. I really wanted everybody to be at the same hotel, then split up between a bunch of little hotels. And I wanted a hotel that had like a wedding coordinator service that was somebody who worked at the hotel, that's what they did. Like they were going to be my main contact, and I didn't have to find an actual wedding planner down there. So then we landed on, or I found the Hotel Daria. How do you say our hotel's name that we got married at?
Yeah, I think you got it.
Daria? Okay. The hotel we picked was Hotel Daria, and it was amazing. It had enough space for all of us to stay there together, enough rooms, enough variety in the price points of rooms, as well as they had a coordinator on site, and like that was what she did. So I was like ecstatic. We told them the date that we wanted to get married at. They had it available, and so we put down a deposit and we booked it. So it was kind of a bit of a process for me finding the hotel, but I knew that there were like certain criterias that needed to be met for me, because I had never been to Costa Rica and I really wanted I was giving up a lot of trust to a wedding planner or a hotel to help me plan this wedding. I looked up a bunch of reviews. I saw a bunch of weddings online. Actually, I didn't find that many weddings at their location that were recent online. But from what I did see, it looked like the place was going to be beautiful where we got married at. I was really happy with like the look and feel and the vibe that I got from the photos and how the whole kind of event shook out. So I was very excited. It kind of took me a while to find a place, and people were getting a bit antsy with me, especially when I like booked that one, told everybody that it was that first hotel, and then I was like, actually, just kidding, like a week later. Don't think it's going to be there anymore. So, I don't know, my best advice when you're planning your wedding, especially a destination wedding, is like, honestly, just go with your gut. When I booked the Riu place the first time, our first hotel, like my gut told me that I didn't really want to do this, but I was feeling a little bit of pressure to figure something out and not have it too far from the airport, and so I kind of just settled. And your gut just knows. Your gut always knows. So just listen to your gut when you're planning your wedding. It is honestly hard to do. It sounds really easy, but when you have so many people, kind of voicing their opinions, and you really want to please everybody, you just kind of gotta go with your gut no matter what, because it really does end up working out. So onto a wedding planner. You can do this a million different ways. You could get a wedding planner. You could go visit the place beforehand if you're doing a destination wedding. We didn't really have it in our budget to go to Costa Rica beforehand, meet with them, kind of see it all, go through the whole process. So instead, I went with like a hotel that had a really great reputation with a really good wedding planner, and just kind of crossed my fingers and hoped it would all work out. The process was amazing with our wedding planner there. She was so good. It was about 2 months out from our wedding. She would send us something like about once a week to decide. So it would be like, what flowers do you want? And she would send us kind of a mix of like photos to pick from. And then I also kind of sent some photos along too that I was like, this is kind of the vibe too that I'm going for. I like that photo, but like, here's a little bit more. Our flowers turned out beautiful. I was so incredibly impressed. I went in kind of like, not low expectations, that sounds really negative, but with a really open mind. Like, I had no idea how this was actually all going to look, because all I had seen were a couple of photos and I was emailing our wedding planner back and forth. So you kind of just have to like give up a bit of control and go with it, and just know that whatever comes out that day and shows up that day is what it is, and there's really no changing it. So, and that was hard for me because I am kind of a perfectionist and a bit of a control freak. But it really taught me to kind of just let go, relax, and it was going to be what it was going to be. But then, yeah, so she would send us things like pick your flowers, and then it would be like pick your hors d'oeuvres, pick your cocktails if you want any, your dinners, just different things like that for like a few weeks up until the date. And so we kind of like didn't all have to plan it at like one sitting and go through like a really crazy long email. So she really kind of made it all in bite sizes, and it was really easy for us to work with her and plan. So another person that we worked with through the whole process was a travel agent. We actually worked with a travel agent that was a recommendation of Joel's mom, who had helped her plan a lot of her vacations in the past, and she was incredibly helpful. She was so helpful for us. The combination of our like on-site hotel wedding planner and then the travel agent was like kind of a win-win for us. The travel agent was excellent for our guests. So on the back of our invitation, we had all the information about how to contact the travel agent, the dates, to get more information from her, and that she would book everything. It ended up being cheaper for people to combine everything with the travel agent and book with her versus booking the hotel separate, their flight separate, and then their transportation from the airport to the hotel separately. It ended up being like a couple $100 cheaper for people to use the travel agent. So A, it was cheaper, and B, it was really, really easy for people. They literally called, told them what day they wanted to arrive, what day they wanted to leave, and she booked their hotel stays, she booked their flights, and their travel in between the hotel and the airport. And she was so helpful for our guests, and that was like one of the best things we did for our guests, I think, in like the whole planning process. So I can't recommend a travel agent enough when you're going through this process, because it really makes it easier on the guests. And then when the guests have questions, the travel agent had so many more answers kind of than I did, and it was easier for me because I didn't kind of have to field a bunch of questions all the time from guests. People just talked to you. Barb was our travel agent, and she just kind of figured everything out for people. And it was really nice too with the travel agent. People called in, said their like dates, times, what they, their itinerary was, and all they had to do was put down $200 deposit to like reserve their like itinerary that they wanted, which is really awesome for people that you didn't have to like shell out a bunch of money right away. I can't recommend travel agent enough. If you want to know who our travel agent is and details, I'll leave links, everything below, and I'll probably have a separate blog post all about this where it'll kind of go into more detail. So definitely check out that. So now I'm just going to go through like a few random tips for you when planning your destination wedding. The first tip is negotiate. Honestly, all you have to do is ask. If you feel like things are kind of getting out of control budget-wise or whatever, just ask for something. Ask for a reduced rate. Honestly, just ask. and you'd be surprised what they will come back with. And that was true for us. I just like negotiated a few things and we saved a couple $100, which was awesome. So just don't forget you can negotiate with this. I mean, don't like negotiate on freaking tiny little things over and over and over and annoy your wedding planner, because don't forget you have to like actually work with them the day of. But you know, just don't forget that you can negotiate. So now on to the dress. It depends totally on where you're getting married and what you want for your day, but for me, I really wanted something in a dress that was going to be like light, airy, breezy, and would travel well. So something that I could fold up in my suitcase if I wanted to, and just like not have to worry about it wrinkling or anything or having to bring a bunch of special things. I did bring a travel steamer, which I don't even think I ended up really using, because I just hung my dress like as soon as we got there, and then we had a few days before the actual wedding. But I picked a dress that was like really light, airy, breezy. It had like tulle and a lace top, and it was really, really comfortable for the day of, and it traveled really well. My only thing with like having a tulle dress like that is the bottom of my dress. If you do this and get a tulle dress, I cut off the train so it was like a sweetheart train, because I just didn't want a big train there. So I really loved the sweetheart train. It just made it elongate just a tiny bit in the back, which ended up looking really pretty in my opinion. But it gets full of crap. Like I had like leaves and twigs and everything like in my dress, because it was kind of that mosquito netting type of vibe. When we were actually like getting married, I looked down and I had like an ant crawling up my dress in between my tulle, and there's like a little moment in the video where I'm like trying to get it out, and then I was like, oh screw it, I'll just leave it. No one can see it. But it like collected a lot of things. But it traveled really well, and that was important to me. So when you're doing a destination wedding and your guests are coming for like, you know, a solid amount of time, like 3 days, 5 days, a week, don't overplan your guest time. Like don't forget that this is also a vacation for them. We tried not to overplan too much. All we really had planned was when we arrived Friday, we were getting married on a Monday. Then Saturday was pretty much like a free day for everybody. We did have my like bachelorette party that evening. We went out to dinner, and then we went out and had far too many drinks. But that was kind of like ladies can come if they want to, don't feel like you have to. So it was kind of more of a casual event, which is really nice. And then the next day, we didn't have anything planned for them during the day, but we had a sunset cruise, which was like our quote-unquote rehearsal dinner. I put it in quotes because like it wasn't like a sit-down dinner, but it was amazing. Everybody absolutely loved that part of our wedding. But yeah, we didn't overplan our guest time. We just kind of had a few things happening, but for the most part, like during the day, they could just do whatever they wanted. So my last tip is try and get everything on your to-do list before your wedding done a week early. So don't put everything off, or don't kind of schedule things that are wedding important the week before your wedding, because inevitably there's going to be something that comes up that you didn't expect and is going to take up your time a bit that week. For me, it was making a seating chart and making some little table numbers. I just kind of hadn't expected to do that. I did it the week of, and it was great that I didn't have anything else to do that week. I just kind of, you know, mentally was packing, making sure I had everything, but I didn't have any projects to do that week. So that was super, super helpful, is get as many of your like little projects done as soon as you can. Don't put them off, and especially leave the week before your wedding project list, because there's probably going to be some little thing that comes up that you're going to have to figure out that week. Just get as much as you can done as soon as possible, which is easier said than done. I get it. But will totally save you a lot of stress the week of the wedding. So another super optional tip for planning your destination wedding is to use credit cards as your form of payment to the hotel. This worked really well for us in the sense that it gives you a lot of protection when you're making that transaction versus a direct deposit, because if something weren't to work out, or I don't know, you just, like the worst case scenario, you could call up your credit card company and explain it, and they can do like a chargeback so you don't lose the money completely. But another thing for us was as we were planning our wedding, because we started planning 10 months in advance. And as we were kind of planning, we were also working on our house. So we opened like a Delta credit card because we knew we were using Delta as our people for our flights and our airline for our flights. And so we were able to get like the bonus miles when you first sign up, because we knew that we were going to be spending some money on the house beforehand. But if you use credit cards, just pay them off, especially those like Delta type of cards or travel cards like that. They have really, really high interest rates. So just always pay them off. Don't pay any interest, because you just just like a personal thing for me, we never paid any interest, but we used credit cards as the transaction, and that worked out really well for us in the sense that we knew we were going to be protected on our end, plus we earned bonus miles, and then like actual miles for the money that was spent. So then what ended up happening when we booked our flights to Costa Rica is one of us flew for free, and we only had to pay for one other ticket. So we kind of ended up like saving money that way. But just do a lot of research into all of that stuff beforehand. It worked out really well for us, so it's just kind of a tip I would throw out there. Plus, a lot of those travel cards have they're free of foreign transaction fees. So when you're actually in the country, you can use them without having to get the transaction fees that you get with maybe like your regular stateside credit card, or definitely your debit card, because those will get you transaction fees, and then obviously they take the money right out at the moment. So anyways, that's just kind of a random tip about like how we went through the process of paying, and we paid for everything for the wedding on a credit card, and then obviously paid it off with 0 interest. That worked really well for us. So yeah, I think that's it. I think those are all of my destination wedding tips, and kind of gives you an idea of the process we went through for planning our destination wedding in Costa Rica. If you have any other questions, leave them below. If there are a lot more questions about some of this stuff, maybe I'll do a separate Q&A video from the questions below, but I feel like I covered a lot of the bases here. So hopefully this is really helpful and wasn't crazy long, but yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. And if you haven't seen our wedding video or our honeymoon video, I will leave links to those, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!